Hey guys, it's Gina Militia from ginamilitia.com, and today I want to show you how to create this soft pastel look using Lightroom CC. On the screen now I've got the original raw file of the image that I shot in Cuba recently, and I'm going to go ahead and open up the develop module, and the first thing I want to do is just increase the overall exposure just slightly. I just think it's a bit under. I'm also going to lower the color temperature a bit. I just want to make it overall a little bit cooler. I'm going to drop my contrast, increase my highlights just a tad, open up my shadows a fraction, just give it a slightly better black point just by holding down the Option or Alt key on a PC. Alright, and I'm going to drop my vibrance and reduce my saturation. Alright, so overall I'm getting that sort of pastel look starting to happen now. What I want to do now is just go into my split toning panel, and I'm going to add a little some cooler tones into the shadow areas and some warmer tones into the highlights. I'm going to go ahead and do my highlights first, and so I'm just going to add like a slight warmy sort of orangey color here. Alright, about there looks good, and then I'm going to click on my shadows and do the same thing and bring in more of a teal. Knock it back a little bit. I'm just going to go down to about there. That looks pretty good to me, and I'm just going to change the balance a bit just so it's sort of more skewed towards the highlights. If I go this way I get more blue, if I go this way I get more of the warmth coming through. So about there looks good. Every image is different, so it's just a matter of playing around and seeing how it works for your image. Alright, so I'm happy with that. What has happened that I don't like is I really liked having the slightly darker background, so I want to bring that back by using my Radial Filter, which is up here at the top of the develop module. So I'm going to click on that, and you'll get this drop down dialog box, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my feather to 0 so I can see exactly what the effect that I'm applying is doing. So I'm going to start with my background, and so basically what I want to do is create like a spotlight effect. And so see how it's not quite fitting. So if I hover my mouse around the edge of one of these handles here, you get a little arrow that has like a double-sided arrow, and now I can rotate my marquee so it fits the area that I want to create a little bit better. So that's a bit better fit now. It fits in with her shoe. Alright, so I've got my feather set to 0. So now so I'm now affecting the inside. I actually want to affect the outside of this filter. So what I can do is uncheck the invert. Alright, so now when I'm lowering my exposure, it's only affecting the area outside of the radial filter. So I'm going to drop my exposure down just a tad. Alright, it's probably too much, doesn't need to be that much. About there. And now I can start bringing my feather in so that I just want to soften that line there. So I just bring it in. And that seems to be pretty good about there. I don't want to notice the filter. I want it to come in gradually. So there I can see it. I can still see it. That's looking better there. So I'm happy with that. Alright, now what I'm going to do is duplicate this filter and create another layer on top of that with and just brighten it slightly. So I can right click, duplicate. I'm going to invert that. And so now I'm only affecting this area inside. And so if I drop my feather right back, you can see exactly the area that I'm affecting. And I don't want to lower the exposure. I want to just brighten it, that area, just slightly. So it looks like she's got a little spotlight on her, a little duck of light. And I also want to just bring in a bit more of that warmth that I used in the duotones earlier. So just maybe about there. That looks about right there. All right, so now it's looking pretty awful at the moment because I haven't got my feather on. So I'm going to bring the feather in and just soften that in. All right, so before and after. The problem, what I don't like is that some of this is spilt onto the background. So I don't like that. So what I'm going to do is with my radial filter selected, I'm going to hit the brush tool. And now I've got a brush that I can work with in that area. And if I'm going to also lower my flow, lower my density, and if I hit Option, the brush now becomes an eraser, and I can feather that a little bit more. So now I can go within my radial filter and I can erase part of what I've applied in this area so that it removes the areas that I don't want. All right, so that's getting rid of some of the blue there, and I can up the flow of the eraser so that happens a bit more quickly. And you can see that I'm now getting rid of some of that orangey light that's hitting the floor there, and now my little spotlight is a bit more believable there. So we've got before, after. All right, so the final thing I want to do is just add a little bit of grain to that. So I'm going to go ahead and go down to effects, into the grain here, and I'm just going to, let's just zoom in. All right, so they were nice and tight. I'm going to bring in a bit of grain, and you can see that it doesn't take much to make an effect. I like it to look quite rough, so it's a bit more natural, and the size to be quite large, but the effect to be not that great. So let's have a look. We've got before, after, and I can toggle on and off here. So it's not doing much. So we'll go up to about there. I can toggle on and off. And I think that's done enough. That's enough of an effect to just give it that sort of worn, old film look.